There are 10 meals written down in the oldest book we have, plain meals a shepherd could carry, that can heal the body they feed. And the last of them, friend, the one I am building you toward, was not invented by any cook in any kitchen. It was named by God himself in the book of Deuteronomy, in the 8th chapter, when he told Moses what the promised land would set on the table. 7 foods, exactly 7, no more and no fewer. Save that one in your mind, because when careful men of medicine finally sat down in our own age and measured those 7 together in one bowl, they found something that stopped them cold. Each of the 7 carries exactly what the other 6 are missing. Put them together and you have the most complete healing plate ever written down. But I am getting ahead of myself, and you will have to stay with me to the end for it. For the better part of 100 years now you have been told that healing comes in a bottle from a factory with a name on the label you cannot even pronounce, that the food on your plate is just fuel, and the medicine is something separate, something you buy. And I want to tell you gently that this is not how our grandmothers understood the world, and it is not how the old book understands it either. We did not lose this knowledge because it failed us. We lost it because it could not be sold. You cannot put a patent on a fig or a bowl of lentils, and so no one had any reason to remind you that they heal. The wisdom did not die, friend. It was simply allowed to slip off the shelf while we were looking the other way. And that is the one honest thing I will say to you today. The forgetting was not on you. You were sold to. You were not stupid. My name is Brother Benedict, and for 40 years I have kept the infirmary and the physic garden of my monastery, reading the same herbals monks have copied by hand for 800 years. This is history and craft, not medical advice, for I am a monk and a gardener, not a physician. Now, before we go a step further, I must be honest with you about one small thing. Only a very small number of the people who sit and watch these quiet talks with me are actually subscribed. If you love the old foods and the plain wisdom our forebears grew and gathered and set on their tables, even half as much as I do, then do consider subscribing. It is completely free, and you can change your mind whenever you like. It helps an old monk keep tending this little garden of ours. Right, then let us begin at number 10. The 10th meal is the simplest thing in the world, a bowl of chickpeas dressed cold with good oil. The chickpea never gets a miracle written about it. There is no chapter where it heals a king. It was simply always there, 10,000 years on the same tables, so ordinary that no one thought to sing about it. And that is exactly its gift. It gives you a slow, steady strength that never spikes the sugar in your blood and drops you an hour later. It fills you and it steadies you, hour after hour, without ever asking anything back. And the true olive oil you pour over it cools the quiet heat and swelling that age lays down in the joints, the same swelling those little pills for a bad knee are meant to ease, only without the harm those pills can do your stomach over the years. I have watched old brothers in our own house eat a bowl of this at midday for 50 years and walk to their graves at 90 with straight backs and clear heads. The old people knew this by feel long before anyone could explain it. You take your cooked chickpeas and you dress them cold with real oil, a little vinegar and whatever green herb you have, and you let them sit at room warmth so the flavour opens. Your test this week is simple. Make 1 bowl of it, eat it at room heat, not cold from the cold box, and notice how long it holds you. I promise you will not be hungry at 4 in the afternoon reaching for something worse. The 9th meal is a handful of figs and a handful of almonds, eaten together. Now the fig is no small thing in the old book. When good King Hezekiah lay dying, in the 2nd book of Kings, it was a poultice of figs that the prophet Isaiah laid on him, and the king rose from his bed. And the almond, why? The almond was the fruit that budded on Aaron's rod when God chose him, the first tree to flower in the spring. The fig feeds the good life in your gut, sweeping it clean and gentle, and it carries the quiet minerals your bones and your blood are always spending down without your noticing. The almond guards the heart and steadies the sugar so you do not crash into that hollow, shaky tiredness an hour later. Together they are the perfect afternoon bite, one soft and one firm, one sweet and one earthy, each covering what the other leaves undone. That is a theme you will hear from me again and again today, friend, for the old book seems to know it in its bones. No single food was ever meant to stand alone. And here is your do it now, friend. This week, when the tiredness comes at 3 in the afternoon and your hand drifts toward the biscuit tin, reach instead for 3 figs and a small handful of almonds. Do that for 1 week, and your afternoons will feel like a different country. The 8th meal is a grain bowl scattered with pomegranate. You must understand how the people of the old book loved this fruit. When Solomon built the great temple, he had 200 pomegranates carved along the tops of the pillars in bronze, ringing the house of God. 200! That is not a fruit you carve if you think it is ordinary. You build this meal from the bottom up, barley or old wheat below, cooked soft, the ruby seeds scattered all through it, and fresh mint and coriander, and the true oil poured over. The bright seeds mop up the rust that the years leave behind in the body, that slow corrosion of getting old. They guard the heart, and the grain beneath steadies the sugar and holds you for hours. Whatever you do, don't reach for the fake oil for this, the pale factory stuff pressed from seeds in a machine. Reach for the real green olive oil, the kind that catches slightly in your throat, because that catch is the medicine itself. Your test this week is to build one of these bowls for your supper and eat it slow. The 7th meal is dates stuffed with nuts, the food that crossed deserts. The date palm is named above every other fruit tree in Scripture, the tree the righteous are said to flourish like, and there is a plain wisdom in it that the wandering people understood in their bones. The date gives you a quick, kind sugar that lifts you at once. The nut you push inside it gives you a slow strength that comes up behind. So the date carries you up, and the nut holds you there, and you never get the crash, never that sudden emptiness. This is the food that let a man walk from one well to the next, across a country of sand, the food the caravans carried when nothing fresh could survive the heat. I keep a jar of them in the infirmary to this day, for when a brother comes in grey and shaking from fasting too hard, and 3 of them will bring the colour back to his face while I am still filling the kettle. And here is the beautiful thing, friend, you do not need a laboratory to carry it. Your do it now this week is to stuff 3 dates with almonds or walnuts and put them in your pocket before you set out for the long, sagging afternoon. When the tiredness comes, you will have real fuel in your hand instead of the sugar that betrays you. The 6th meal is dark barley bread torn and dipped in olive oil. You will remember the 5 barley loaves, the little lunch of a boy that fed the 5,000 on the hillside in the Gospel of John. Not fine white wheat, mind you, barley, the bread of the poor, and there is a quiet reason the poor lived on it. Barley holds a soft, gluey kind of fibre that works through you like a gentle cloth, and it scrubs the fat clean out of your blood as it goes. And the oil you dip it in cools the heat and swelling all through the body. Dense, dark, real bread, the kind that is heavy in the hand, torn with the fingers, dipped in true oil, and the butter left in the dish. Whatever you do, don't reach for the soft white factory loaf that dissolves to paste in your mouth, for there is almost nothing left in it to heal you. Your test this week is to find one honest dark loaf, tear it and dip it in good oil instead of spreading it with butter, and taste how much older and truer it is. The 5th meal is goat milk yogurt with a spoon of raw honey. The Promised Land itself was called a land flowing with milk and honey, and the milk, friend, was goat's milk, gentler on the stomach than the cow's milk we drink now, kinder to those who cannot take the heavy modern kind. When you sour that milk into yogurt, it fills up with living cultures, the good small life that settles and calms your gut and quiets the churning. And the raw honey, the real honey, guards it and kills the germs, for honey is so clean and so hostile to rot that the old infirmaries, our own among them, packed it straight into open wounds, and the wounds closed clean without festering. I have done it myself, with my own hands, on a brother's cut that would not heal, and watched the honey do in a week what the bottled ointments could not. Put them together in one bowl, and you have a whole gut-healing breakfast that a shepherd would know. But here is the caution, and it matters. Whatever you do, don't reach for the fake, the heated syrup in the little plastic bear, because the heat has cooked the life clean out of it and left you sweetness with no medicine. find the raw honey, cloudy and thick. Your do it now this week is to eat this for one breakfast instead of the coloured sugared yogurt from the shop. Now let me pull back for a moment, because the meals from here down are the strong ones, the ones our forebears wept for, and I have still not given you number one, the 7 foods that God himself named. Hold it in your mind, we are climbing toward it. The 4th meal is a slow lamb stew with garlic and onions. The lamb is the most sacred meat in all of Scripture, the Passover lamb whose blood marked the doors. It gives you the deep strength and the iron that hard living burns out of a body. But here is what the old cooks knew, and we forgot. The real medicine in that pot is not only the meat, it is the garlic and the onions cooked down soft within it. They fight the germs, they guard the heart, they thin and clean the blood, and they feed the good life in your gut. When the people of Israel wandered in the wilderness eating manna, bread from heaven itself, do you know what they wept for? Not for meat, not for wine, for the onions and the garlic and the leeks of Egypt. They wept for them by name, in the 11th chapter of Numbers. Now why would a freed people cry for an onion? Because their bodies knew, even when their minds had forgotten, that the onion and the garlic were keeping them well. They knew it the way an animal knows the plant that will cure it. Your do it now this week is to cook a pot low and slow, and put in more garlic than you think you dare, twice as much, and let it melt down into the broth until you cannot tell it is there, but you can feel it working. The 3rd meal is fish grilled over coals with herbs, and this one I cannot tell without the shore of Galilee. After he rose, in the last chapter of John, the risen Christ was on the beach in the grey morning, and he had a fire of coals already burning, and fish laid on it, and bread, and he cooked breakfast for his tired fishermen with his own hands, grilled fish. The oily fish carry the good fat your brain is quite literally built from, the fat that cools the whole body and keeps the mind clear into old age. And notice, it was grilled over live coals, never drowned in factory oil in a pan, so nothing good in it was spoiled. Here is my proof, friend, and it is the plainest proof there is. Go and look at where people live the longest anywhere on this earth, and again you will find them in the old fishing villages, on the rocky coasts, the people who eat the oily fish off the fire, outliving the towns just a few miles inland. The record is written in how long they live. Your do it now this week is oily fish over honest heat, twice. And that brings us to number 2, the meal a man once sold his whole future for. In the book of Genesis, Esau came in from the field faint with hunger, and his brother Jacob had a pot of red lentils, and Esau traded away his birthright, his inheritance, everything, for one bowl of that stew. For centuries the preachers have shaken their heads at Esau the fool, but I want you to see it the way a hungry working man sees it. That lentil stew was not a weakness, it was survival itself. It gives you strength, it gives you the iron and the minerals that hard labour spends, and it gives you a slow, steady fuel that burns for hours in the body. Soaked overnight, cooked long and low with cumin and coriander, and finished with a pour of good oil, so that all the goodness is carried up and taken into you. The real question, friend, is not why Esau traded everything for a bowl of it. The real question is why you are not eating it. Your do it now is a pot of this once a week, and let it feed you for days. And now we come to it, number 1. The meal that God himself named. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, as the people stood at the edge of the promised land, God told Moses exactly what that good land would give them. And he named 7 foods, exactly 7, wheat and barley, grapes and figs and pomegranates, the olive for its oil, and honey from the date, 7. And here is the wonder I promised you at the very start. When careful men of medicine in our own time finally laid those 7 together and measured them, they found that each one fills precisely what the other 6 lack. The grains give you the steady, lasting strength. The fruits give the bright, living goodness the grains cannot. And the oil of the olive is the very thing that carries all of it up and into your body, so that nothing is wasted, for there is goodness in those fruits and grains that the body simply cannot take up unless a little fat comes with it. Leave out the oil, and you leave half the healing on the plate. The men who measured it gave it a name, and the great universities have written it up as one of the healthiest ways of eating known to us, though your great-grandmother needed no university to tell her so. You build it in one bowl, a base of barley and old wheat, grapes and sliced figs, pomegranate seeds scattered like jewels, whole olives, dates set on the side, and the true green oil poured over everything. 7 foods, one bowl, each one holding up the others like brothers with their arms about one another's shoulders. Not a coincidence, friend, but a gift, set down 3,000 years before any man alive could measure it or explain to you why it works. And who took this from us? The factory kitchen and the factory pill of the last century, the great push after the war to sell us our health in packages. No company on this earth can put a patent on a bowl of beans, or own a fig tree, or charge you rent on a pot of lentils. That was not a wicked plot, friend. It was only money. A company had no reason to remind you that a bowl of 7 plain foods could heal you, because there was nothing in it for them to sell. That is all. It was never about you. So when you sit down to that bowl, understand what you are truly doing. You are not just eating a meal, you are taking back something that was taken from you, and becoming a person who can feed and mend himself, who does not have to wait on a factory or a shelf to be well. That is not a small thing. That is a kind of freedom the old people had, and we let slip, and you can have it back this very week for the price of a bag of barley and a few figs. Now do 2 things for me down in the comments. Tell me which of these 10 meals your own family already ate without ever calling it medicine, and tell me which one you are going to cook first this week. I read as many as I possibly can, and the patterns in them never cease to move me. Thank you truly for spending this quiet time with me. Go in peace and look after yourselves. And do subscribe and come back, because next time we sit down together it is 15 biblical drinks that have healing properties, and one of them is a humble cup the monks brewed for the dying that we have all been drinking for the wrong reasons entirely.